All right, buckle up for a deep dive
Ooh, I love a good deep dive.
into a case so disturbing it's hard to believe it even happened.
Really?
Yeah, our source material. A YouTube video
Okay.
titled Real Crime Case of Japan That Will Shock Use Real Talk Clips. Emphasis on the shock.
Yeah.
But here's the first twist.
What's that?
The case is actually from China, not Japan.
That's an odd error, isn't it?
Right.
Makes you wonder
Yeah.
about the video creator's attention to detail, maybe even their agenda.
Right. So, consider our curiosity officially piqued.
I'm piqued.
We're going to unpack this case step by step,
Yep.
see what the facts are,
Right.
and try to understand what made it so unbelievable.
Okay.
Okay, so let's meet the people at the heart of this story.
Right.
Lui Gowli, the husband, is described as a freelancer, unstable income.
Okay.
And this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
He's got this
Yeah.
growing obsession with butcher knives.
This detail immediately raises questions, doesn't it?
Right.
About Lui Gowli's motivations.
Yeah.
Was he collecting knives as a hobby? Or was there a more sinister purpose?
His wife, Lui Gowli, is the complete opposite.
Okay.
She's got a steady sales job, seems to be the responsible one in the relationship.
Okay.
And then there's their young daughter,
Okay.
whose birthday, sadly, becomes a pivotal point in this whole thing.
It sounds like we're already seeing a potential power dynamic here.
Yeah.
A hardworking wife supporting the family,
Right.
while the husband is unemployed and collecting knives. That certainly sets a certain tone, doesn't it?
It does. Now, picture this. July 4th, 2020. It's the daughter's birthday.
Right.
They're living in a seemingly ordinary middle-class apartment complex in China. One of those with CCTV cameras covering every nook and cranny.
Oh, wow.
The video really emphasizes the normalcy of the day.
Okay.
Like it's setting the stage for something truly unexpected.
It's a classic contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Juxtaposing the ordinary with the horrific.
Right.
It makes the descent into darkness all the more impactful.
Right. So the day starts off normally enough.
Okay.
Birthday celebrations, family time. But then some cracks start to show.
Okay.
Yu's knife collection becomes a point of contention. Lui questions him about it, understandably so.
Sure.
And his explanation that he wants to start a freelance cooking business
Yeah.
seems flimsy at best.
And it's not just a passing concern on Louis's part, is it?
Right.
The source material highlights that she's genuinely disturbed by this collection.
Yeah,
It's a red flag that, in hindsight, becomes incredibly significant.
absolutely. Then things escalate further when Yu cuts himself while prepping the birthday meal.
Oh.
It's a minor cut,
Okay.
but he completely loses it, snapping at Lui and blaming her for distracting him.
Which, again, points to his volatile nature.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Perhaps a tendency to deflect blame and avoid responsibility.
totally. After dinner, the family does their usual thing.
They drink warm milk before bed.
A seemingly innocuous detail, right?
All right.
But it becomes absolutely crucial to understanding how this nightmare unfolds.
You're not kidding. So everyone goes to bed.
Okay.
But then things take a truly bizarre turn.
Okay.
Louis just vanishes overnight. When Zhu wakes up, she's gone.
Oh, wow.
He searches the apartment, finds nothing,
Okay.
and eventually reports her missing to the police.
And it's important to note that he doesn't just passively report her missing.
Right?
He actively engages with the media,
Yeah.
portraying himself as this distraught husband desperate for answers.
It's a performance for the cameras, right?
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the Chinese police are launching a full-scale investigation.
Okay.
They're not messing around.
Which really speaks to the efficiency of the Chinese legal system
Yeah.
as it's portrayed in the source.
Hmm.
They seem to be taking this disappearance very seriously right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. They go through the apartment with a fine-tooth comb.
Interview neighbors. And critically, they start analyzing the building's extensive CCTV footage.
Right.
Remember, there are cameras everywhere.
And this is where the case takes a truly baffling turn.
Yeah.
Despite pouring over 6,000 hours of footage,
Wow.
they find absolutely no trace of Louis leaving the building after she went to bed that night.
It's as if she vanished into thin air, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it's this impossibility, this
Yeah.
complete lack of an exit
Yeah.
that pushes the case from a standard missing person investigation into something far more sinister.
All the while, Zhu's sticking to his story,
Okay.
playing the part of the grieving husband for the media, feeding them this narrative of a loving relationship and bewildering disappearance.
Which, knowing what we know now,
Right.
is a meticulously crafted facade.
The level of deception is just chilling.
Yeah.
He's playing the victim while being fully aware of what he did to his wife.
At this point, the pressure on the police is immense.
Yeah.
They're facing a case that seems impossible to crack.
Right.
They've exhausted all the usual avenues. No sign of forced entry.
Right.
No evidence of a struggle.
Right.
No witnesses.
Yeah.
And Lui has seemingly vanished without a trace.
So what do they do?
Yeah.
In a last-ditch effort, fueled by a combination of duty and desperation, they decide to search the building's septic tank.
It's a truly grim task, isn't it?
It is.
As the source emphasizes, it's hazardous.
Yeah.
Messy.
Yeah.
And frankly, the odds of finding anything useful
Right.
seem incredibly slim.
But they have to try something.
Yeah.
And after 25 hours of searching through this unpleasant environment, they find something, human soft tissue.
Not a whole body.
Right.
Not even any identifiable remains. Just a small amount of soft tissue.
And DNA analysis quickly confirms it.
Okay.
The tissue belongs to Lui. The missing person case has officially become a murder investigation.
And all eyes immediately turn to Zhu.
Right.
He's brought in for interrogation.
Right.
And while he initially denies any involvement,
Yeah.
he eventually cracks under the pressure.
And that's when the truly horrifying details of this crime come to light.
Oh, wow.
Yu confesses to everything.
Okay.
He admits to drugging Lui's milk when she went to the bathroom that night.
Remember that seemingly insignificant detail about their nightly ritual of warm milk?
Right.
It becomes the chilling instrument of his crime.
It's so disturbing. He then goes on to describe how he suffocated Lui.
Oh, God.
Dismembered her body using his collection of butcher knives, and then used a meat grinder to dispose of most of her remains.
The level of premeditation here is truly astounding.
It is?
He had a plan.
Yeah.
He acquired the tools.
Right?
And he executed it with a cold, calculated brutality.
Yeah.
That's almost beyond comprehension.
It's a level of depravity that's difficult to grasp.
Yeah.
And yet there are still some unanswered questions. Questions that continue to baffle investigators to this day.
Questions that speak to the meticulousness of his plan.
Right.
And the effectiveness of his deception.
Like, how did he manage to dispose of the body?
Yeah.
Without being detected by any of the CCTV cameras?
Right.
Did he flush it all down the toilet, or was there some other way out of the building that he found?
And perhaps even more perplexing.
Yeah.
How did he clean the crime scene so thoroughly
Right.
that a week-long police investigation found absolutely no trace of the murder?
It's mind-boggling. The source seems to suggest that he might have found a blind spot in the CCTV coverage.
Okay.
Some route out of the building that wasn't being monitored.
That's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Or perhaps he found a way to tamper with the footage to erase any incriminating evidence.
Right.
We may never know for sure.
And that's what makes this case so unsettling, right?
Yeah.
The fact that there are still these lingering mysteries, these unanswered questions.
Absolutely. It leaves us with a sense of unease.
Yeah.
A feeling that we may never fully understand the depths of Lui Gowli's deception and the true extent of his depravity.
This is where we need to pause for a moment.
Okay.
And really consider the implications of what we've just uncovered. Lui Gowli managed to fool everyone.
Yeah.
His neighbors, the media, even the police, at least for a while.
It's a perfect example of the banality of evil, wouldn't you say? The idea that perpetrators of terrible acts aren't always these monstrous figures lurking in the shadows.
Yeah.
They can be seemingly ordinary people who blend seamlessly into society.
And that's what makes it so terrifying.
Right.
Because if someone like Lui Gowli could pull this off, it could be anyone, right? Your neighbor, your coworker, that quiet person you see at the grocery store every week. You just never really know what's going on behind closed doors.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is.
It forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that we can never truly know what's going on in someone else's mind.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what are the signs we should be looking for? How can we protect ourselves from this kind of deception?
That's a question that has haunted criminologists and psychologists for centuries.
Right.
And while there's no easy answer, this case highlights the importance of being observant, of paying attention to inconsistencies,
Yeah.
and of trusting our gut instincts when something feels off.
It's about being aware, being vigilant,
Right.
but also, I think, being cautious about jumping to conclusions. We can't let fear and suspicion dictate our every interaction.
That's a delicate balance, isn't it?
It is.
Finding that middle ground between healthy skepticism and undue paranoia.
It is. And it's a conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
Especially in light of cases like this.
So let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
And take a closer look at the investigation itself.
Okay.
Despite the extensive CCTV coverage, Lui Gowli almost got away with it. This raises some important questions about the limitations of technology, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The source material seems to suggest that even with all the advancements in surveillance technology, human ingenuity, especially when driven by dark intentions, can still find ways to circumvent those systems.
It's a chilling reminder that technology is just a tool.
Right.
It can be used for good or for evil.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was tragically exploited.
It's also worth considering the psychological impact this case had on the community. The source mentions that it shattered their sense of security, made them question their own judgment.
It's understandable, isn't it? To have that feeling of safety and familiarity ripped away by such a horrific act.
Right.
It forces people to confront their own vulnerabilities, to acknowledge that even in seemingly safe and ordinary environments, darkness can lurk beneath the surface.
And I think this speaks to a broader societal anxiety, this fear of the unknown, the fear of the other.
Right.
It's a fear that's often amplified by media portrayals of crime and violence.
You're right. It's this idea that danger can be lurking anywhere, that anyone could be a potential threat.
Right.
And while it's important to be aware of our surroundings, to take precautions, we also need to be mindful of how this fear can be manipulated and exploited.
It's about finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between being cautious and being compassionate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
That there are complexities and nuances to human behavior.
Right.
That can't always be easily categorized or understood.
And this brings us to another crucial aspect of this case.
Okay.
The role of the media. Lui Gowli was able to manipulate the media narrative for a time, presenting himself as a grieving husband while concealing his horrific crime.
It highlights the power of perception, doesn't it? The way that appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
And how easily we can be swayed by a carefully constructed facade.
It also raises questions about the ethical responsibility of the media.
Okay.
In covering cases like this.
Yeah.
How can they balance the need to report the news with the potential to inadvertently contribute to a perpetrator's deception?
That's a complex issue.
It is.
And one that journalists grapple with constantly.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between informing the public and avoiding sensationalism or exploitation.
It's also about being critical consumers of media, right?
Absolutely.
About being aware of the potential for bias, for manipulation, and for outright deception.
You can't just passively absorb information.
Right.
We need to engage with it critically, question what we see and hear, and seek out multiple perspectives.
It's about being informed, but also being discerning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to the heart of this case, the shocking brutality of Lui Gowli's actions.
Yeah.
And the depth of his deception.
It's a case that forces us to confront the darkest aspects of human nature.
Right.
The capacity for cruelty, for violence, and for calculated manipulation.
It's a reminder that evil doesn't always wear a mask.
Right.
It can hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
Disguised as normalcy, as ordinariness.
And that's perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this entire story.
So, as we move forward in our deep dive,
okay,
let's keep these questions in mind.
Right.
What motivates someone to commit such a horrific act? How can we better understand the warning signs of deception and manipulation? And what can we learn from this case about the complex interplay between technology, media, and human behavior?
These are crucial questions, and ones that we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into the details of this case.
Absolutely. It's really hard to wrap your head around this case.
Yeah, it is.
The level of premeditation, combined with his ability to maintain this facade of innocence.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so disturbing.
It really is.
It makes you wonder what was going through his mind?
Right.
What kind of psychological profile would fit someone capable of such a horrific act?
Well, the source material doesn't go into a deep psychological analysis, but there are some clues that we can piece together. His volatile nature, his tendency to blame others, his obsession with those knives, it all paints a pretty unsettling picture.
We also have to consider the potential role of financial stress. The source mentions that Lui Gowli was unemployed and financially unstable, while Lui Gowli was the primary breadwinner. Could that have played a role in his motivations?
That's certainly possible. Maybe there was resentment building up, a sense of inadequacy or frustration.
Or perhaps it was something more sinister, a desire for control. A need to dominate. We see this in many cases of domestic violence, where the perpetrator seeks to exert power and control over their partner.
And the way he dismembered her body, the use of the meat grinder, it's almost like he was trying to erase her completely, to obliterate any trace of her existence.
That's a very astute observation. It speaks to a level of rage and dehumanization. That's truly horrifying.
It's almost beyond comprehension, isn't it?
It is.
How someone could be so cold, so calculating, so utterly devoid of empathy.
And yet we have to remember that these kinds of atrocities happen. It's a stark reminder of the darkness that exists within human nature.
This whole case makes me think about that famous Milgram experiment.
Oh, interesting.
The one where they tested people's willingness to obey authority figures, even when it meant inflicting pain on others.
That's a fascinating connection.
The
Milgram experiment revealed that ordinary people, under the right circumstances, are capable of acts they would never have believed themselves capable of.
Exactly. It challenges our assumptions about good and evil. About who's capable of what. And it forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that maybe the line between perpetrator and bystander isn't as clear-cut as we'd like to think.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is.
And it brings us back to the importance of critical thinking, of questioning authority, of being willing to stand up and say no when something feels wrong.
You know, one thing I keep coming back to is that blind spot in the CCTV coverage. The source mentions it as a possibility, but it's never confirmed. It's like this nagging loose end that just adds to the mystery of this case.
It does, doesn't it? And it speaks to the limitations of technology. Even in a society as technologically advanced as China, with its vast surveillance networks. There are still gaps, still vulnerabilities.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If someone as meticulous as Lui Gowli could find a way to exploit those gaps, what are the implications for our own security, our own sense of privacy?
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves. And it's not just about CCTV cameras. It's about the increasing amount of data that's being collected about us. The ways in which that data can be used and misused, and the potential for breaches and vulnerability.
It's like we're constantly walking this tightrope between the benefits of technology and the risks that come with it.
Precisely. And it's up to us as individuals and as a society to have open and honest conversations about those risks, to set boundaries, and to demand accountability.
You know, one aspect of this case that we haven't touched on yet is the role of forensic science, specifically DNA analysis. The discovery of Lui Gowli's tissue in the septic tank was a pivotal moment in the investigation, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It provided the irrefutable evidence that she was dead. And that Lui Gowli was involved. It was the turning point that shifted the investigation from a missing persons case to a murder investigation.
And it speaks to the power of forensic science, the way that technology can be used to uncover the truth, to expose deception, and to bring justice to those who have been wronged.
You're absolutely right. Forensic science plays a crucial role in modern criminal investigations. It provides objective evidence that can help to corroborate or refute witness testimony, establish timelines, and identify suspects.
And in this case, it was DNA evidence that ultimately sealed Lui Gowli's fate.
It's also worth noting the sheer determination of the investigators in this case. They didn't give up.
Right.
Even when the case seemed impossible to crack.
Yeah.
They kept digging, kept searching.
Right.
And ultimately, their persistence paid off.
It's a testament to their dedication, their professionalism, and their commitment to seeking justice for Lui Gowli.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, even when the truth seems buried beneath layers of deception, there are people out there who are fighting for justice, who are working tirelessly to expose the darkness and hold those responsible accountable.
This case is a stark reminder that even in seemingly ordinary settings, unimaginable horrors can occur.
It's a story of betrayal, of deception, and of the chilling capacity for violence that exists within the human heart.
But it's also a story of resilience, of the unwavering pursuit of justice, and of the power of forensic science to uncover the truth.
And as we move towards the conclusion of our deep dive, let's reflect on the lessons we can learn from this tragedy, the questions it raises about our own assumptions, about the world, and the steps we can take to protect ourselves and those we love from the darkness that can sometimes hide in plain sight.
You know, it's hard to shake this feeling that this could happen anywhere to anyone.
It really could.
It makes you really reevaluate everyone you know.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It forces us to confront the limitations of our own perceptions.
Yeah.
You know, we tend to judge people based on outward appearances, on their social masks.
Yeah.
But this case shows just how deceptive those masks can be.
Lui Gowli was a master manipulator.
He was.
He crafted this image of a grieving husband, completely fooling his neighbors. The media, even the police initially. It makes you wonder how many other Lui Gowlis are out there hiding in plain sight.
That's the unsettling truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can never truly know what lurks beneath the surface. What secrets people are keeping.
Right.
It's not about becoming paranoid or suspicious of everyone we meet. But it does highlight the importance of staying vigilant, of paying attention to red flags, and trusting our instincts.
Absolutely. We can't let fear control our lives.
Right.
But we also can't be naive.
Yeah.
There's a balance to be struck between maintaining a healthy skepticism and still being able to connect with others.
Well said.
Yeah.
And this case also underscores the need for open communication, especially within families and close relationships.
Right.
You know, if Lui Gowli had felt comfortable expressing her fears about her husband's behavior, if there had been a support system in place, perhaps this tragedy could have been averted.
That's a heartbreaking thought.
It is.
It highlights how crucial it is to create safe spaces for people to speak up.
Absolutely.
To share their concerns without fear of judgment or dismissal.
Exactly. We need to foster a culture where people feel empowered to speak out against abuse. Against manipulation. Against anything that feels wrong.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by the multiple layers of this case. It's a true crime story, yes. But it's also a cautionary tale about the dangers of deception, the limitations of technology, and the complexities of human nature.
It is. It's a case that stays with you. That makes you question your own assumptions about the world and the people in it.
And it leaves us with a profound sense of unease. Knowing that even in the most ordinary of settings, darkness can lurk beneath the surface, waiting for the opportunity to emerge.
So what are we to take away from all of this? What can we do as individuals to protect ourselves and those we care about?
I think it starts with awareness. We need to be aware of the potential for deception, of the red flags that might indicate someone is not who they appear to be.
And we need to be willing to have those difficult conversations. To speak up when something feels wrong, and to support those who are struggling or in need of help.
We also need to be critical consumers of information, to question what we see and hear, and to seek out multiple perspectives.
And most importantly, we need to remember that even in the darkest of times, even when faced with the most horrific acts of human cruelty, there is still hope.
There is.
There's still good in the world. There are still people who are fighting for justice, who are working to make the world a safer, more compassionate place.
This has been a truly disturbing deep dive.
It has.
A reminder that the world can be a very dark place, but also that we have the power to shine a light into those dark corners, to expose the truth.
Absolutely.
And to work towards a brighter future.
And if you're interested in learning more about this case, we'll be sure to include a link to the source video in the show notes.
It's okay.
Just a word of caution.
Yeah.
The content is disturbing.
It is.
So viewer discretion is advised.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.